To innovate is to invent ideas, processes, tools, services. And this is what we are going to discuss with our next guest. To innovate is the essence of his work. He is the director of innovation of one of the largest companies in the country, a company we all know. I'm talking about Ambev. Welcome, Felipe Cerchiari. How are you, Felipe? It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Hello, very nice to meet you. Thank you for the invitation.
Felipe, you are in charge of alcoholic innovations. I was joking with my team that your job must be very interesting. Tell us exactly what you do.
That is right. Yes, it's tough. I have to taste all of our lunches, but it's part of the job. Now, all jokes aside, I handle all of the new releases, all the launches of Ambev.
So, whatever's new, whatever you set out to do that is new in the portfolio of the company goes through your hands.
That's right.
And what could you show us? I know you've taken a huge leap forward in the last few years in terms of innovation. When did Ambev really decide to invest in innovation?
Well, great question. I'm sure you've seen this as Brazilians, but we have been putting a lot of effort into bringing new proposals and new products or services to the Brazilian consumer. And that has become very prominent in the last few years. It grew over, you know, for the last 5 or 6 months, our participation in new products grew quite a bit. And the Brazilian market is in development. We see this happen in beverages and in other categories as well. And to work with innovation is really about being able to mesmerize your customer. It's about being able to find products and services that can transform somebody's life. So in the last year, for example, we created Skull Beats Gin Tonic, which was one of the biggest products that are accessible, affordable in the market. We brought Brahma Blue Malt, which is the fifth largest beer in the country and was created 5 months ago. Zero Gluten Stella, and for those that are in São Paulo, we're doing a test with a beer that has 80% less carbs than common beer. So for those that are looking to looking to be more healthy, looking to lose a little bit of weight perhaps, we have that option. We've always said that Ambev was a brewery, but we are not only in the beer market, we are in the market of socializing. So for those people that don't like the bitterness of beer, for example, now we have a product that is called Isla, which is a product that is a little more on the sweet side. It has the same characteristics of any beer, but it's actually a gin infusion with some different fruits. So you have around 4.5 alcohol level, and you have this option so we are creating new options, new alternatives for the Brazilian market because Brazilian consumers are eager for novelties.
It has been said, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. It's difficult to take the consumer out of his comfort zone, where he's happy with a given product, and have him choose a different product. It must be really...
Well, you went straight to the point now, and this is really nice. Because you know what? The market develops according to its capacity, whether it's the company's capacity of bringing novelties or the consumer's capacity, having different situations where consumers want to buy products. I'm talking about our industry, but that goes for any sector. And that's really interesting because what is the difficulty? I mean, are companies bringing innovation or not? Just to give you an idea, innovation fails at a very high rate. The statistics is actually that 80% of innovations fail. I've seen it at 80, I've seen it at 80, 95, I've seen it at 97 even, but never below 80. So how come innovation fails so much? Think about it. When you launch the product, someone has to get to know about the product, consider buying the product, like what the product is, and replace it for the product that that person is already consuming, and is going to have to disseminate it. So it's a huge transformation in someone's life to make it work. And that begs the question, and it goes to your comment. Are we designing our products, good enough products to solve real problems of consumers so people can have this transformation? Or the answer is no. Because if you're not doing this, this product will probably be in that 80% that doesn't go forward. So that's the challenge. How can you find within this world that has a lot of possibility for failure, how can you find strong possibilities to transform people's lives?
Has been said, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. It's difficult to take the consumer out of his comfort zone, where he's happy with a given product, and have him choose a different product. It must be really a very attractive,
And you
a
said
very
it very
interesting
well.
product.
We don't change something that is going well. So you need to have a very, very nice proposal to convince consumers, but it's also a mindset that puts companies in a jam. Because take a big company like Ambev, like Klabin, like any other Brazilian company, there's been a series of good things. There's been a series of successes for these companies, successful products and launches, and from that, companies became huge. And when you think about what is new, look how interesting it is to have an innovation. The innovation questions your own pathway to success. So when you're launching something new, you're saying to the consumer, look, I have this new proposal, and I bother to change my product line, and this should be a superior proposal, superior to what we have and what the competitors have. So consider buying this product, Mr. Consumer. So it's not simple. You need to create a cultural environment in this organization from the top down. And that has to be in favor of you taking some risk. And the obsession for the customers needs to be so huge to the point that you make this movement. You take this risk and you create amazing products that can transform people's lives. It's part of the game.
But for a stable brand, a robust brand that is well known and well accepted in the market, it must be less difficult to innovate relative to a brand that's not well established, right?
Well, it's definitely going to get a head start. I'll give you an example. Brahma Double Malt was a beer that was created 12 months ago. And this beer today is the fifth largest top-selling beer in the country. It's amazing to see its growth, but there are many things related to it. I mean, there is a very clear benefit because I can tell people why this is a superior product. Brahma Double Malt is creamier than the average beer. If you compare it to the beer that you consume, and if you look at the foam, you'll see that the foam in the double malt takes a lot longer to dissipate. It's very important for beer. And I can tell you about the whole Brahma tradition that is behind this brand. So it touches a lot of consumers that already know the brand, that already know the product. And I can tell you about the new release launch that we had through webinars in the country that reached millions of people. And I'll give you a piece of information. Webinars in Brazil, some of the largest webinars on the history of YouTube by the artists here, they had twice as much ratings as the final of the World Cup in the country. So, I mean, think about it. That's how we make a product work out. If you have a pre-established brand, and you can definitely get a head start.
Felipe, does innovation always presuppose a disruption, a paradigm break to obtain something that is totally new and surprising? Or you can innovate from a known foundation by improving your processes?
That's an excellent question. From an innovation perspective, we have two kinds of ideas, right? You have an innovation that is more incremental. It's what we call incremental innovation, and you have the disruptive type of innovation. Incremental innovation is the one that goes from a basis, that starts with a base of a consumer base, and you develop that proposal. It seems a little less flashy, a little less glamorous, but on the short term, incremental innovation accounts for 60 to 80% of our returns. And that is really interesting because you continue a conversation with your existing consumer. You develop with people. People want to feel as though they are being heard and that you are walking beside them. This is really important. And you have the disruptive type of innovation. I think there's more glamour behind it. It's a little more glitzy, which is essential as well. And that innovation is more for the long term. So, for example, take the historical case of Kodak that went from being, the photography industry went from developing film to the digital industry. and that was a disruptive innovation. So how can you reconcile both worlds in your industry? Because hey, there's always going to be a lion out there. There's always going to be a disruptive innovation in any of our industries. The question is, you as an agent of your sector, are you going to be the disruptor of your industry, or are you going to sit and wait for somebody to do it? That's why both worlds are important.
I think this question brings me to another one. How much courage and faith is needed to innovate?
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of faith, because I just told you the statistics of how many innovations just go wrong. But I always joke with that. I say that if you're not having butterflies in your stomach, if this is not really messing with you, it's okay. You're probably doing an incremental innovation. Keep doing it. That's still important. But the one that is really going to transform the business has to really affect you to the point that you're like, oh my God, this can really go wrong, because that's taking risk. Taking risk is not being in a comfort zone. I mean, if you're comfortable, what is the level of uncertainty? It's probably pretty low, so the level of returns are probably going to be pretty low as well. So risk is a factor that, it's a constant factor that is ever present in the innovation journey. Now, there is one interesting thing as well. When you align the percentage of innovations that go wrong, like I told you, with the expected return from innovation and the risk of placing a bet and the cost of doing that bet and everything that comes behind that innovation, you can do both. You can reduce that risk. So how do you do that? For things that are more certain from the consumer's point of view, you can start big, right? In my case, you can do a lot of packages, a lot of labels, a lot of regions. For the ones that are a little less certain from a consumer's perspective, don't start big. Start small. Learn the ropes in one region, one product, one label, test many hypotheses, kill what doesn't work, and scale up what does work. It's that concept of the R fast and cheap and, for what is certain.
I feel all of these methods require you to be very well turned in to the spirit of time. You must know what is happening, what people desire, what is the demand. Like when Ambev launches gluten-free Stella, I feel the target is the market of women and men that do not want to grow a beer belly.
Yes. So that's a great example of one product that I was super nervous about. Even though we tested it out with consumers, we were trying to understand the market, how appealing the product was. Stella is a brand that spans for over 600 years. So if you want to innovate a 600-year brand, you better hit your mark. You better do it right to make sure it's worthwhile within this franchise, so to speak. And that was a product that we were very uncertain about from a consumer's perspective. It started very small in Rio de Janeiro. We brought it to São Paulo. We gradually changed the package. We changed the way to tell the story of the product. Today it's in Rio and São Paulo, and we are sending it to different regions in the country because we learned as we went. We learned with the consumer. We learned about the better proposal for the product before give it scale. And probably in this product, if we had started giant, you were talking about the timeline. Brazil was not really ready for that yet. You have to build it. And then we were going to start big and die really fast because we would not be able to tell that story with quality. Now in this process we can develop before we go big.
So rhythm and speed are important elements in this equation, right?
Very important.
If you are not able to supply the demand, you may be left behind. And in your portfolio, Felipe, which is the apple of your eye, your success case, the product you're proud of, you who are responsible for alcoholic innovations in Ambev?
Good one. Well, there is a product line that we have here, which to me is really the state of the art in terms of innovation. We call Roots, this project, we call it Roots, actually. So this is a regional beer line that takes an ingredient from one state. For example, Magnífica is a beer produced in the state of Maranhão, done only by the people from that state. It's from the factory of that state, and it has manioc that is harvested and bought from small growers in the state of Maranhão. So you create a local pride because that's a local brand, right? And you create social transformation because you're buying with no intermediaries. You're buying straight from the grower. You're buying from the small farmers in that state, which causes a huge social transformation, which makes people even more proud, and that creates a virtuous cycle. So just like that one, we have 5 regional beers. We have Cashew beer done in Piauí, we have Esmira in Goiás, Legítima in Ceará, and we have Nossa from Pernambuco. These are product lines that are made with local ingredients, so that's fantastic.
And how do you see the future of the company thinking about innovation? We see that for large companies that have a bolder view, innovation is a core element of their strategy, something that permeates all sectors of the company. Do you think this is the way to go?
Yeah. I think that more and more, in order for a company to be relevant for the next 100 years, companies will have to be obsessed with their consumers. This is unnegotiable. And innovation has to do with that focus. Because if you are releasing a new product in the market, this product probably has such a big benefit that you're getting people to get into that journey. So to me, future is very connected to innovation because innovation is really about that focus. It's about that obsession to meet the consumer's need.
And a consumer who is increasingly demanding, who does not want to know only if the product is good or cheap. There are other variables to consider that go beyond the welfare of the consumer, that affect the community, the environment. So it's a more and more conscious and responsible consumer.
Absolutely. We always talk about purpose, right? Brazil has been talking about purpose and the world has been talking about it for quite some time. But more and more, this has to be a real thing. It doesn't suffice to have a pretty discourse, to be pro this and that and encourage certain things. What about your end product? How is that product connected to a purpose, to a transformation mission, to society at large? A personal transformation and an environmental transformation too. So all that equation needs to be part of the core of the company.
Felipe, thank you very much for your participation. You were so young, but we can see how committed you are to this purpose of transforming people's lives. Good luck, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for the invitation. And also, if you're interested, you can follow me on LinkedIn, on Instagram. I'm always posting some novelties.
Thank you, Felipe. Bye-bye. And please stay tuned, because we will hear more from Ambev, and it is not to be missed. Our festival Inovar Clubbing em Casa is still on, and we are counting on you to keep us company. See you soon.